Okay.
All right, hang on. Let me make sure the chat can hear you loud and clear.
Right.
Yeah, there you go. You should be good now. You have the floor, sir.
So the initial prompt.
Let me know anyone if you can't hear.
This was the first thing that I wrote to it, basically. Can you write me a funny story about two stoners named Zach and Lanty taking a trip to Amsterdam to get stoned and fall asleep on the train after smoking? They end up in the Middle East and are forced to marry two male goats named Horny and Beardy.
Horny and Beardy?
Yeah.
Okay, right.
They make a daring escape during the night by stealing a small plane to fly back to the Amsterdam airport in time for a spliff and their flight home. So, like, that one I kind of gave it some weird shit to do anyway. And then it gave us a kind of funny one first, and then I just got it to develop on its own back, and it did some weird shit, dude. Once upon a time, there were two stoners named Zach and Lanty who decided to take a trip to Amsterdam to get stoned. They arrived at the airport with nothing but their backpacks, a few euros, and a serious case of the munchies. As soon as they landed, they headed straight for the famous coffee shops and indulged in all the weed they could handle. They spent their days wandering the streets, giggling uncontrollably, and snacking on stroopwafels and cheese.
That sounds accurate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tell me about it, right?
Yeah, I know what you guys are
One
like.
afternoon, after smoking a particularly strong strain of weed, they decided to take a train to the countryside. But they fell asleep on the train and didn't wake up until they were miles away from Amsterdam.
Also legit.
To their horror, they found themselves in the Middle East, surrounded by men in traditional dress and two male goats named Horny and Beardy.
That's a fucking good train service to
Yeah.
get all the way from Amsterdam to the Middle East.
Tell me about it, dude.
And
AI,
you
it's the
slept
future.
from that long as well.
I
Like...
don't normally sleep that good. It's a good train,
Yeah.
it must be. Confused and disorientated, Zach and Lanty were forced to marry the goats to appease the locals. They spent a few days living with their new
Which one were you with? Beardy or...
I figure I would probably fit Beardy, plus I don't like the sound of Horny.
No,
Lanty
like,
have him.
Lanty would be with Horny.
Lanty
Okay,
can have
I have to know the
I'll
answers
have
to
Beardy,
the
yeah,
pressing
yeah.
questions. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, that's like the afterwards where you ask the author shit, innit? Like,
Yeah.
They spent a few days living with their new goat husbands, eating figs and learning how to milk the goats.
Okay.
But they soon realised that this was not the life that they wanted. So they made a daring escape during the night. They snuck past the guards and found a small plane that they stole and flew back to the Amsterdam airport. Exhausted and relieved to be back in Amsterdam, they lit up a spliff and waited for their flight home. As they boarded the plane, they couldn't help but laugh at the absurdity of their adventure. From that day on, Zach and Lanty never forgot their trip to Amsterdam and the time they accidentally married two male goats. They remained friends for life, always looking for their next adventure, but never straying too far from home again. So then I just said, right, can I have a sequel about the two guys going on another bizarre adventure? Of course, here's a longer, funnier, and more detailed sequel to Zach and Lanty's Stoner Adventures.
Nice.
Zach and Lanty had just returned from their goat marriage adventure.
I like the way it continues the
Yeah,
plot.
mate, it's great.
Yeah.
It carried it on as a sequel fully. Where was it? Yeah. They had returned from their goat marriage adventure, but they were already planning their next stoner escapade. They decided to take a road trip through California, visiting all the famous weed dispensaries along the way. They rented a bright green VW van, decorated with peace signs and giant marijuana leaves on the side. They packed their bags with snacks, water, and of course, plenty of weed. Their first stop was in San Francisco, where they visited the famous Hippie Hill. They spent the day sitting in the grass, smoking joints and making new friends. As the sun began to set...
Oh, Twitch is horrible for ads now.
They stumbled upon a secret underground weed market. They couldn't believe their luck and spent the night sampling all the different strains of weed. The next morning, they woke up feeling a little hazy from the previous night's activities. They decided to head down to LA to check out the famous Hollywood sign. But on the way there, they ended up getting lost and driving through a rough neighborhood. They were stopped by a gang of tough-looking guys who demanded they hand over their weed. Zach and Lanty didn't want any trouble, so they gave them all their weed. But as the gang started to drive away, Zach had an idea. He pulled out a bag of Cheetos and offered it to the gang members. The guys were so stoned they forgot all about the weed and happily took the Cheetos instead. Feeling relieved, Zach and Lanty continued on their journey, but they were out of weed and needed to restock.
This thing just wrote an episode of Spaced.
Yeah. They decided to head to the small town of Humboldt, where they heard they could buy the best weed in the state.
Humboldt River.
As soon as they arrived, they were approached by a strange old man who was claimed to be the town's top weed dealer. Skeptical but curious, Zack and Lanty followed him into a dark alleyway where he led them to a hidden door. The old man disappeared, and Zack and Lanty found themselves in a dimly lit room filled with weed plants. They were in heaven. They spent the next few hours sampling all the different strains, laughing and munching on a bag of Doritos. As they were about to leave, the old man returned, demanding payment for their stash. But Zack and Lanty had spent all their money on weed and snacks. Thinking on their feet, they offered the old man a deal. They had a giant inflatable bong in their van.
How do you have an inflatable bong?
I really don't know, mate. This is what AI just creates new inventions. They offered to give it to him in exchange for the weed. The old man, intrigued by the offer, agreed. Zack and Lanty left Humboldt feeling victorious. They had managed to score the best weed in California and pull off a daring heist.
Humboldt is nowhere near California.
Yeah,
Humboldt is near, like, New York, but okay.
As they drove back to San Francisco, they couldn't stop laughing about their bizarre adventures. From that day on, Zack and Lanty were known as the ultimate stoner duo, always seeking out new adventures and new strains of weed. They may have gotten lost along the way, but they always managed to find their way back home with plenty more weed and even more stories.
Damn.
So then I was like, cool, right. Make it a trilogy. Give me a finale.
Yeah.
And then it gives me this crazy one. Here's another over-the-top stoner adventure featuring Zack and Lanty.
I want to know what happens to the goats.
No.
I don't get do I get closure in this one?
No, you never hear about the goats. But this is where you meet the wizard.
I want to know what happened to Horny.
And this one just went crazy with it, like straight off the bat. Zack and Lanty were attending a wild party in Las Vegas filled with hookers and mountains of cocaine.
Hookers and mountains of cocaine sounds like somewhere I need to be. Yeah.
But suddenly, the party host announced that he had invited a notorious gangster who was known to be violent and unpredictable. Feeling nervous, Zack and Lanty tried to leave the party but found the doors were locked. They were trapped. Just as they were starting to panic, they heard a voice from behind them. I am the great wizard Dumbledank.
Dumbledank! Oh my god.
They turned around to see a man in a long robe with a long white beard and a crazy look in his eyes.
They must have, that robe has ganj leaves instead of stars.
Zack and Lanty were skeptical, but they figured they had nothing to lose. They told the wizard about their predicament and he agreed to help them. They made their way back to the main room where the gangster was holding court. The wizard shouted Avada Kedavra at the door, but nothing happened. He tried again, but still no luck. Zack and Lanty started to lose hope, but the wizard wasn't giving up. He began to dance around the room, chanting, Weedle deedle dee, cocaine, oh cocaine, let us out of here, please.
That's me. That's my spell. I invented that spell. I am Dumbledank. Yeah. TM copyright.
To their surprise, the gangsters and all the partygoers began to join the chant, sweating and dancing around the room. Suddenly the doors burst open.
Cocaine, cocaine.
They ran out of the party shouting, Thank you, wizard, as they made their escape. They stumbled down the street, still high on cocaine and adrenaline.
Yes!
They couldn't stop laughing at the ridiculousness of what had just happened. They had been saved by a crazy wizard and a ridiculous chant, and they knew they had just experienced another unforgettable stoner adventure.
I need to put that chant in my Twitter bio.
Yeah. Was there one more? I'm sure there was a big finale, wasn't there?
That was a massive segue setup just to say that his kart racing name is going to be Dumbledank.
Yeah, basically.
That
was literally it, yeah.
Yeah, capital D, Dumbledank. Dumbledank 420.
if that's taken, then that racer name can be used.
Yeah, you're good.
I thought it said can. And I was
that's what fucked me. What? It fucked me as well, because I've got Ada Wong Enjoyer.
Whoa, this is some good graphics.
No, it will be. And don't worry, that resolution is not the real resolution. It fills itself out. It's artistic choice. But you don't know that.
I know. How do I skip this shit? You don't? Oh, okay. There's a button.
You do. Right, now, you have automatic or original. We're on original.
What, so you can fall off the edge and there's no arrows, basically?
I think, yeah.
Take precise control over your drift. Good, because I don't want them to control my drift.
Yeah, exactly.
Find your own way forward. Yeah, original. Right.
And then for controls, you got R trigger or circle. That's on R trigger.
Drift. Use item. Drift. Use item.
I honestly never use square to drift. I just let go of accelerate and turn.
Yeah.
If you know what I mean. I kind of just manual drift like. You won't find out what happened to the goat until movie 6. Shannon says. Damn.
Well, no, there's only 4 because there's a finale.
Is
and
it?
was
Yeah.
pretty intense, mate. Hang on.
Right. Okay. Give us the finale. Give us the finale before we're kart racing.
How do I fucking skip this?
Chat room and moderators, if you guys want to do some more kart racing, load up your shit.
There we go. Skipping the tutorial. We're not playing tutorials. I'm a Mario Kart master. Okay.
I've heard that before from other people who think they're good at Mario Kart and they got tumped.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Well, we'll see.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Here's the final story in the saga of Zack and Lanty, where they are tasked with saving the planet from a massive stoner-related calamity.
Damn.
It was a day like any other, until a giant asteroid made entirely of weed crashed into the Earth.
Only a giant asteroid
Yeah,
of
yeah.
weed. Why, you know?
The impact caused a massive cloud of smoke to envelop the entire planet, sending people into a state of delirium. The only ones who could save the world were Zack and Lanty. They were chosen by a mysterious group of weed gods who had been watching them from afar and knew they were the only ones with the power to smoke enough to counteract the effects of the asteroid. The journey to save the world would not be easy, however. Along the way, they encountered a variety of weed-related villains who sought to stop them. There was the evil extractor.
Weed-related
Yeah,
villains.
there was the evil extractor who could turn people into concentrated forms of weed with his magic wand.
Damn.
And the vape lord who could exhale massive clouds of smoke that could knock people out. But Zack and Lanty were not alone. They were joined by a group of fellow stoners, including Mary Jane, the seductive temptress who could manipulate people's minds with her sweet scent.
Damn, Mary Jane, what up,
Yeah.
girl?
And Snoop Lion, the
Snoop
wise
Lion.
old stoner who had been around since the beginning of time.
Snoop Lion,
Yeah.
what?
Together, they
Oh,
battled
fuck.
their way through hordes of enemies, smoking their way to victory. They even tried extracts for the first time, which gave them unimaginable powers, but also made them extremely paranoid and anxious.
True and real.
Yeah. At one point, they encountered a group of aliens who were also affected by the weed cloud. They challenged Zack and Lanty to a smoke-off with the fate of the world hanging in the balance. The aliens had some of the most potent strains of weed in the universe, but Zack and Lanty were able to hold their own, eventually blowing the aliens away with a massive 2-man bong rip.
Damn.
As they approached the final enemy, the Weed Titan, a massive creature made entirely of weed. They knew this would be their toughest challenge yet, but they had a plan. They would force themselves to Whitey, a state where they would be temporarily paralysed, but also extremely powerful. With the power of the Whitey, they were able to blow the Weed Titan away with one massive bong hit, saving the planet from certain doom. As the smoke cleared and the world returned to normal, Zack and Lanty knew that they had accomplished something truly amazing. They had saved the world with the power of their smoking skills, and in doing so, had become the greatest stoners in the universe. They could only imagine what other adventures awaited them in future, but they knew whatever came their way, they would always be ready to smoke their way to victory.
Damn. I can.
Considering the initial prompt and like what it's done from just like some wacky thing about
Couple of
we're
keywords.
gonna get lost off a train and get stuck in the Middle East and have to marry goats. Now turn that into even more wacky stories. It's done a pretty fucking crazy job.
I'm surprised, yeah, at the like
The way it can cross over between stories and
the
stuff.
diversity of it,
Yeah.
which is pretty good, and like it's enough to be not believable, but like enough to be not gibberish.
Yeah.
Like it actually makes sense.
Yeah,
you know
yeah,
what I mean?
it's crazy, isn't it?